Hey everybody, welcome back to Fantasy Theory. The latest episode, 2 X-Men 97, is out, and it is titled Life Death Part 2. This, of course, is the continuation from the Matendo/Life Death episode. I think that was episode 4, and this is episode 6. So we're going to jump right into this video, discuss it, theorize, talk about the ending, and just have fun, because this was a pretty good episode. Not my favorite, but not the worst one, I think. But anyway, leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe. Let's jump right into it. So, Magneto and Gambit's title cards have been removed in the opening sequence. This is a direct result from the last episode where we saw the demise of both Magneto and Gambit. They added Nightcrawler to it, and then there's a shot of Nimrod in the Master Mold's chest. We haven't seen Nimrod yet, but there is a shot in this where from season 4 episode 9 it was Nimrod being defeated by the X-Men. There's a shot of Storm in black and cut off sleeves, and then Bishop in his regular X-Men attire, and then Wolverine in also a black cut off tee and a skull belt buckle. There's a new shot of the X-Men fighting the Imperial Guard, and then there's another shot of Charles and Laurandra touching hands, which comes from season 3 episode 4. So it begins in space of the Shahir Empire fighting, which are the green ships, and they're fighting the Kree in the blue ship. We actually have seen the Kree in Captain Marvel's movie, the first one. There's some sick action for a little, and then the ship even pushes its enemies together and blows them up. It's a pretty cool sequence, and I actually caught this on the rewind, how cool this was. Deathbird jumps through a ship, and we find out it's Lorandra's sister. Ronan is also there, and it's the same Ronan from the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, only he supports a yellow and green attire, still carries the Cosmi Rod. The Imperial Guard team we see consists of Earthquake, Vulcan, who was the brother to Cyclops and Havoc, Gladiator, Smasher, Manta, Starvolt, Titan, and Flashfire. Not gonna lie, kind of badass, but pretty graphic. We see Deathbird dig her heel into Ronan's face, even making him shed some blood. A little graphic, I gotta say. Lorandra puts a message out to the Shahir Empire, reminding everyone it's been 1 year since she took in Charles Xavier. So we know that, again, it's been a year in the timeline since the last X-Men episode before the X-Men 97 series. Charles walks out in his bionic-like suit and takes off his helmet to reveal it's him to the people who do not seem happy. Charles and Lorandra walk through the garden. As they are walking through it, you could see some people whispering about them. You could sense the tension between Professor X and the people there. The whole sequence is basically kind of just them shitting on the X-Men to me, but I could be wrong here. Let me know how you interpreted it. Lilandra wants Charles to be the educator to teach their ways. This will come in later in the episode when Charles becomes a teacher in a vision, but we'll get to that. Lilandra almost takes a shot, but more of an ironic part where she says he has to show his students how to walk on their own, and he unfortunately can't walk on his own and is bound to the wheelchair or his new suit. We do see it's basically just a mechanical legs and suit, kind of like Rhodey in the Avengers, and we get this transition of a flying animal passing 2 moons, and then it transitions to an owl passing Earth's 1 moon, and we are now in the life-death part with Storm and Forge. The adversary in the life-death episode part 1 has poisoned Forge, and now Storm is taking care of him. The adversary is implied to be able to get into your mind and really mess with you, and further proves it by triggering Storm's claustrophobia by locking her in a box. Storm does not fear death, but the adversary knows that instead of death, she fears certain moments in her life. The adversary's head comes through the box and takes form of Storm, Jean Grey, or Madeline, because of how her hair is positioned, not in a ponytail, Beast, Wolverine, Rogue, Gambit, and Cyclops, which ends on Cyclops shooting his ray at her. And of course, they all look evil in some way with their red eyes, and Forge then comes to the rescue when we see him wielding the Mystic Arts. Now, I have no clue if Forge is using the same Mystic Arts as Doctor Strange, but I feel like it has to be with how similar the powers look. People on the internet have pointed out that the spell on the powers that he puts out are a bit different than Doctor Strange's, so maybe this really is something just similar to it, but I don't buy it. But it is pretty cool reveal that Forge can wield this, and also has some book that is kind of like a spell book where he defeats the adversary very quickly. And people have also pointed out that just like in Multiverse of Madness, the magic kind of trickles down after using it, which is a pretty cool catch from everybody. Forge tells Storm about a healing cactus called the Midnight Chala, and we get this transition from Storm and Forge going head to head, kind of like in a romantic way, to 2 actual lovebirds. So it's a lovebirds to lovebirds. And then we're back to Charles and Lilandra. Charles is introduced as a royal consort or just a love interest. And there's a little bit of kinky flirting between the two. I don't know if you guys caught that. But we see her sister, Deathbird, is not happy as Charles was born on the wrong side of the stars, she said. Charles says, let's talk the quiet part out loud, which apparently is like a social media thing, but I don't even know about that, but you let me know if you've heard this before. Deathbird says,
Xavier would see his Milky Way ghetto become our new throne world.
Which I'm not gonna lie, I'm from the Milky Way galaxy, and I take a little bit of offense to this, but I'll stand by for now. Deathbird invokes the right of Indisha, where basically it's a loyalty test, but Charles basically has to erase all memories from his mind of his home, Earth, and the X-Men, and Lorandra must do it. So it's basically like another memory spell, kind of like the spell from Spider-Man No Way Home. Charles and Gladiator look at the statues of their gods who married for harmony. What we get from this episode and what it seems like is that these people only know one way. They're taught only one way, and they're taught not to think, and that's not really what Charles is all about. He encourages people to think outside of the box to really get down to a problem. Gladiator says basically free-form thinking is insanity, and Charles says he has a friend who would almost agree with that, and that of course is referring to Magneto. In the sequence, Charles has to decide if it's worth keeping those memories, even though they are said to be bad for him, or if he wants to continue with them and not continue with Lorandra. Back to Storm and Forge, they pass 100 ball cartridges, which Forge explains was from the Plane War. Storm says maybe it's better off that she stays human rather than being a mutant, and Forge disagrees, saying bullets weren't the worst thing of the war, but a little white lie was. And of course, in this episode, Storm must face the fear of claustrophobia and go down an abandoned mine shaft. Back over to Charles is his ceremony to forget Earth. He goes through it very swiftly until he gets to the X-Men, which he starts to hesitate, and that's enough for Deathbird to step in. Deathbird clearly thinks humans and Charles are inferior and below them. The people there even say Charles is below humans because he is a mutant. These mutants can't catch a break. Not on Earth, not outside of Earth, just they can't catch a break. A fight breaks out between the sisters, and Charles remembers his greatest gift, and that is teaching. So he sets them all into a classroom, and he takes them to the astral plane, and he's in a classroom where he could walk, and he even has empty desks, which is hilarious to me, like some people didn't show up to class. The adversary returns to Storm in the abandoned mine shaft, where the walls start to feel like they're closing in on Storm, until she realizes it wasn't the executioner, but the white lies. She believed that she has lost her powers. Storm realizes her powers and defeats the adversary, launching herself out of the cave and now supporting a new black suit, the pride of the X-Men suit, which came about in the giant-sized X-Men issue #1. Storm says, what are demons but reflections of our fears and shame to Forge? In the process, she's healing Forge. When Forge asks her to run away to a tropical island, she says it's not a bad idea. And, Forge just makes that mistake of turning on the TV at that exact moment, which will show the destruction of Genosha, shocking Storm. Charles lectures everyone about their wrongdoings and what they're basically doing that is wrong. Another vision takes place, and Charles sees only skeletons and towers over Charles is Gambit, who turns into a skeleton, which was weird because we're led to believe that Magneto and Gambit died in the last episode, but he only sees Gambit here and not Magneto. So I wonder if there's something where Magneto is actually alive or what, because they took him out of the opening sequence, but he's not here then. Maybe he just, I don't know. Gambit attacks Charles, blowing basically all of his flesh and making Charles become just a skeleton until he's knocked out of that vision. Charles snaps back into, my opinion, the right way, and he must go back to see his X-Men. Just when we think the episode has ended, Bolivar Trask is seen running from none other than Mr. Sinister. So that was the big reveal, that Mr. Sinister is still around and behind the attack, but I still believe there's more people like Apocalypse that are part of this attack. But you let me know what you thought of this episode. It was cool seeing Charles back. I actually thought the show was doing pretty well without Charles. Not to say I'm not happy he's back, but let me know if you thought it was too soon to bring Charles back in this season, or if they should have done it like season 2. I don't know. Let me know. Leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Have an incredible day.